Okay, good morning. It's my pleasure to open for the 33rd Electrical Engineering Seminar today. If you look around today, you will see we have a full crowd. We've got approximately about 290 and the room's at capacity, so it is a really good good turn up. So just to go through the formalities and the housekeeping first. I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people of the Aurora Nation, who are the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today. The Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development acknowledge that it stands on country that always was, always will be Aboriginal land. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and waters, and we show our respects to elders past, present and emerging. And we are committed to providing places in which Aboriginal people are included socially, culturally and economically through thoughtful and collaborative approaches to our work. So if we just quickly go through some housekeeping. If you have a look on the tables in front of you, you'll see there's a QR code which will take you through to the program for today. It goes through who the guest speakers are and a little bit of a synopsis of what they're talking about. Emergency procedures. Look, I won't do the tones or the noises, but if you hear a beep beep with a voice announcement, it just means that the fire alarm's been activated. We remain seated until further directions. If you hear the whoop whoop, it's the indicator to evacuate. We'll be under the direction of the hotel staff, and the mustering points is on Cumberland Street, which is on the top side. People will very quickly notice that the phone reception and data in here is not real good. So if you do need that, the Shangri-La offer complimentary Wi-Fi. So if you select Shangri-La Internet and just accept the terms and conditions, you'll get access to Wi-Fi. Just a reminder that the majority of these presentations are being recorded and have consent, and they will be, those that give consent, they will be published on our website after the event. And we also have a photographer going around during the days to capture some photos. If you don't wish to have your photo taken, please let them know, or please let some of the staff know. As always, majority of people in the room have got to be contactable for some reason. Please put your phones on silent, and if you need to take a phone call, just enter out to or exit out to the foyer. The main thing is over the next few days, please participate, please ask questions, and please network during the breaks. It's one of the bonuses and the most valuable part of this seminar. Bathrooms are located near the lifts out the back there, anyone that needs them. Morning tea will be served on 2 levels, so it'll be served just out here in the foyer and also at the next level up where you did the registration. Lunch will be served at Cafe Mix, which is on level 1, so it'll be a sit-down lunch up on level 1, and we'll talk about that as that comes. If you fall ill over the next 2 days, please let us know and we can make arrangements for you. At the end of each session, there'll be time for questions. So please raise your hand. We'll have mic runners around. Other than that, you can also register for Slido and ask questions via that app. And with housekeeping out of the way, we have the presentations. So first up in this session here, we have Anthony Margetts, who's our Chief Inspector, to provide a Resources Regulator update. And then we'll also have the Dale Kennedy story told by his father, Dan. So first up, please welcome Chief Inspector Anthony Margetts.
Thanks, Russell. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here. So before we begin today's program, I want to take a moment to acknowledge a tragedy that has impacted on all of us. Just over 2 weeks ago, a serious incident occurred at the Endeavour mine near Cobar, resulting in a loss of life of 2 mine workers. On behalf of everyone here, I extend our deepest condolences to the families, friends and colleagues of the 2 workers we lost. It's been a difficult time for the Cobar community, and the loss has been felt right across the mining sector throughout Australia. Events like this remind us that behind every statistic, every safety graph and report, there are real people. There are co-workers, there are friends, family, who simply expect their loved ones to come home at the end of the shift. And we often say that worker safety is the most important part of our roles. And events like the one a couple of weeks ago underscore exactly why that must be. Every person who goes to work has a right to come home. Even with all the progress we've made, incidents like this highlight the risks that are still present in our industry and the vigilance required from all of us every day at every site. So before we proceed further today, I'd like to take a moment to honour the memory of the colleagues we lost. So let's stand together as one industry, one community, to reflect on the loss and quietly reaffirm our shared commitment to the health and safety of everybody who works in our industry. So please join me in a moment of silence. Okay, thank you. So we carry their memory forward, not as a burden, but as a reminder of what matters the most. A full investigation into the incident was initiated immediately, and the regulator continues to work with the New South Wales Police Force and other agencies, including Safe Work New South Wales, and we are committed to sharing the lessons learnt from the incident publicly as soon as we can. We need to prevent a reoccurrence. And we owe that to the families and to the workers who put their trust in us, and to every person who steps foot onto a mine site in New South Wales. Our role as a regulator, and you guys as safety leaders and as peers, is to make sure that the lessons are learned, and that leads to real change in our industry. So we must do whatever is necessary to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. Now, I understand that shifting from this reflection to the day's technical program can feel a bit difficult, but this seminar and the expertise and experience in this room is exactly the kind of forum where meaningful change begins. Because every insight shared, every challenge discussed, every improvement made in practice contributes to the safety of real people in our real workplaces. So as we continue with today's session, let's do so with a clarity of purpose, that everyone who works in this industry should go home safe, every shift, every day. Thank you. So let's begin. And I'll just make sure I do click. Okay. So, firstly, on behalf of the Resources Regulator, I want to officially welcome you to the 2025 Electrical Engineering Safety Seminar. I personally want to thank each of you for your commitment in joining us over the next couple of days, and especially acknowledge our presenters who have given their time to not only just prepare, but more importantly, to have the courage to stand up on this stage today and share their knowledge and their expertise with you. This year marks the 33rd, I'll say that again, the 33rd Electrical Engineering Safety Seminar, a milestone that reflects the deep and ongoing commitment of both the regulator and the industry to work together on a collaborative platform to improve health and safety outcomes in our mining sector. Over those 33 years, the ideas shared, the lessons learned, and the conversations held here have helped shape safer workplaces, and without question have sent workers home safely to their families and friends year in, year out. And that is something that we should all be proud of. But our work is far from done. Each year brings new challenges, emerging technologies, changing expectations, and a workforce that is evolving faster than ever before. And with that comes the need to stay sharp, to stay connected, and to stay accountable. And that's exactly what this forum is about. It's about coming together to share, to challenge, and to strengthen the way we manage electrical safety and electrical risks across the mining industry in New South Wales. So, as we open this year's seminar, I encourage each of you to engage fully in discussions, ask questions, and contribute openly. The value of this event comes not just from the presentations alone, but from the collective knowledge and experience that is shared in this room. Okay. Got the right slide up? Yes. So I'll move on to the first thing I'll cover today. I'm going to cover three distinct areas in my opening this morning. So many in the room would know we've been working hard to address the number one hazard in surface mines, which is adverse vehicle interactions. In fact, I think you'd have to be living under a rock if you haven't seen what we've been doing. I've personally spent a lot of time on this project, having started it before I became the Chief Inspector, and I've continued to carry it forward in my role, which at times has been a little bit of a challenge to juggle the priorities, especially with the events we had just over 2 weeks ago. But from my perspective, it's been absolutely worth it. It's really pleasing. One really pleasing aspect for me has been the way that the industry and the regulator have come together on this particular project and produced something of value for the mining industry. So today we're showing a video that can be used to share with your workforce and your executive management teams to help continue to drive the implementation. The video itself, which you may have already seen because we launched it a couple of weeks ago, but I think it's worthwhile to play it again here today. The video itself actually contains the members of the committee who helped put together the Surface Revoa Technical Reference Guide, which is the backbone of how we're going to address the number one hazard in open cut mines. So as electrical engineers, some of you in the room might be thinking, well, what's my role in this? Okay, so I'm going to play the video first, but there is absolute relevancy for electrical engineers in a journey to safer outcomes in adverse vehicle interactions in New South Wales surface mines. And I'll touch on that once the video is played. So we'll play the video now, and I'll jump off the stage.
One of the toughest things that I found as a result of this incident was telling my wife Trace about it, and it was hard, right, to go home and tell your wife that potentially, there was a chance with a second's difference that I might not have come home today, and that was really tough because I've never planned that, right? I've always planned that I will be home to my wife and kids at the end of shifts. I was involved in a near miss between a light vehicle and a haul truck. We were doing a shift change, so I was driving around in the light vehicle with the open cut examiner knocking off night shift. The open cut examiner that was coming on shift was in the passenger seat. I was in the back seat along with the statutory superintendent. We came to a corner and were travelling around that corner talking about general mine conditions. And what I remember of the incident is the passenger yelled out stop at the same time as our safe mine system alerted us. We immediately stopped the car, and when the dust settled, I was looking through the front windscreen at the bumper bar of a haul truck about 15 metres away. The piece that really hit home for me is I only really needed one layer to fail in our systems, right? If that passenger was distracted on a mobile phone or some other device and they didn't yell out stop, if the truck driver was asleep from a fatigue-related event, if our water cart had watered the corner, we didn't need much to go wrong for that to be a potential fatal outcome. And I thought, we're pretty lucky, and I don't like living by luck, so we needed to fix our processes, which we went on and did. My kids will tell you this, and Dad's catchphrase or his motto in life is effort equals reward, and I think that's the opportunity for us as an industry, right? I think the more effort we all put in to review our controls against the TRG, the absolute best chance that the reward is every employee that works for us or is known by us gets to go home to their families at the end of their shift.
Dangerous vehicle interactions continue to be the #1 hazard in open cut mines in New South Wales, far outweighing any other hazards. We know everyone is trying to overcome this worrying trend. However, total incidents are increasing each year. One of our biggest concerns is the near misses. We know that only the most serious near misses are reported to the resource regulator, representing just the tip of the iceberg. Sooner or later, one of these won't just be a near miss. We have to do something different. The resource regulator is aware of the inconsistent approach across the industry to fix these issues. We see pockets of great practice, but we also see the same ineffective corrective actions over and over again. Low-level actions like toolbox talks, retraining operators and rewriting procedures account for 75% of all corrective actions. Clearly, we need to do better. We need to work together under common framework and language if we're going to beat this. It's time for a new direction. The new Surface, Roads and Other Vehicle Operating Areas Technical Reference Guide, released by the Resource Regulator, is that new direction for the mining industry. Make sure you get behind it, because our luck will soon run out.
Let's face it, operating mobile equipment can be boring. 12 hours a day, multiple shifts in a row, 4 o'clock in the morning when your body wants to sleep. If there ever was a job that can expose our limitations, operating mobile equipment is certainly it. We can become distracted, fatigued, complacent, even agitated and tempted to take shortcuts. These behaviours, though, are a shortcut earning a place on the wall behind me. Vehicle interaction controls must be robust, multi-layered and balance the accountability between equipment operator and the company. This wall behind me carries the names of 1,793 people who have died working in Northern District coal mines. Each one a reminder of how hazardous our industry can be. We maintain this area as a place to grieve, remember and reflect. It is also a reminder of the need to continuously improve our safety in the industry. Today, one of the biggest safety risks in mining is adverse vehicle interactions. This new technical reference guide is a response to years of seeing the same kinds of incidents, collisions between excavators and bulldozers, haul trucks and graders, and light vehicles getting crushed by big machines. This trend hasn't improved over time. We know the challenges workers face, like fatigue, distraction and perceived pressure to push through rather than stop work. The consequences of these challenges can be fatal. That's why we are taking action to drive change. This guide lays out a layered defence covering design, segregation, procedures, training and technology. It's not about ticking boxes, it's about making sure the systems are in place from the top down so workers aren't left carrying the risk alone. This wall is a clear reminder that we work in the hazardous industry and we can't afford to rely on luck to stay safe. The new technical reference guide is about making sure your name and your workmate's name don't end up here.
When mobile mining equipment collide, the energies involved are unforgiving. To put this into perspective, a typical light vehicle like this one weighs around 2.5 tonnes. Now, compare that to a fully loaded rear dump truck weighing close to 400 tonnes. That's 160 times heavier than the light vehicle. The energy of that truck moving at just 20 kilometres per hour is equivalent to a light vehicle travelling at more than 250 kilometres per hour. Take a moment to picture that, being struck by a car travelling at 250 kilometres per hour. Would you survive? The scale of these energies make one thing absolutely clear. We need smart, robust defences to prevent adverse vehicle interactions. The Technical Reference Guide provides exactly that. It sets a new direction for the mining industry, providing specific guidance tailored to managing vehicle interaction hazards. The guide has been developed in consultation with industry and mine worker representatives and adopts key concepts developed by the Earth Moving Equipment Safety Roundtable, a global initiative focused on improving the effectiveness of vehicle interaction controls.
The framework of the TRG is centred around a 4-step process. Step 1 is to complete a baseline assessment of your site using the maturity framework. This functions as a self-reflection tool to stimulate discussion and challenge the vehicle interaction controls at your site. The second, the most critical step, is to review your existing controls using the layered defence approach. This structure challenges you to think about when you should expect a control to be considered and implemented. From the design layers 1 through 3, which outline the road designs and the equipment to be used, through the operational layers 4 through 7 of training, fitness to operate and awareness, and then finally into the reaction layers 8 and 9. Following the layered defence review, the third step is to consider any additional operational control measures that may be required for your specific site. While most vehicle hazard controls are transferable from site to site, your mine may have unique vehicle interaction controls requiring specific consideration. The fourth step is to consider any other technology mechanisms that could assist in your site's journey to have a safe vehicle interaction environment. These layers 8 and 9 controls are emerging in our industry and should be considered but not serve as a substitute to those controls in layers 1 through 7. Adopting this layered approach should challenge us all to think, what is my control and when should I expect to see it?
In the past, companies have rushed to implement technology to solve their vehicle interaction issues, only to realise this isn't the silver bullet that they've been searching for. Technology only provides a barrier to an incident in the last seconds or milliseconds, relying on human or machine intervention. It's a small window of opportunities to avoid an incident. Technology can be overwhelmed easily if not supported effectively by design and operational controls. You do not want to be operating in this environment. The journey to safer vehicle interactions starts with implementing defence layers years before an incident occurs, starting off with equipment specifications and mine standards. Mine operators should ensure effective controls are implemented in each of the layers, progressively providing multiple layers of control before time runs out.
This guide has been developed in partnership with industry to address the most serious hazard in surface mining, and that is vehicle interactions. When applied properly, the TRG tackles the human limitations that we all face. Things like fatigue, distraction, complacency, all within a complex operating environment. But more important than that, it gives us something that we've never had before, a common framework and a shared language to address the risks, implement the controls, and learn from each other. This is a very powerful step forward for the industry. So whether you work at a large-scale operation like this one, or a smaller scale operation like this quarry behind me here, the risks are just as real, the people are just as important, and the TRG applies in the same way. So what should you expect at your mine? By talking the same language and working in the same framework as the regulator, other mines and industry bodies, this guide sets clear expectations and removes the guesswork out of control measures. Using this framework allows you to benchmark your mine against the detailed guidance provided and develop clear measures to assess the effectiveness of your controls in the defence layers. And if vehicle incidents do occur, we'll be directing you to investigate in the framework and language of the TRG. If you're not on this journey, you will be left behind. We don't want to see another name on this wall. That's why this TRG is here now, and it's why your actions matter. So take the first step, download the TRG, assess your site, and take action today. Okay, so as I said, some of you may have seen that video already, but it's about assisting the implementation of that TRG and addressing what is across our open cut industry in New South Wales, and not just New South Wales, but in Queensland and also Western Australia. I talked to the other chief inspectors about what their number one hazard is, and it's vehicle interactions. Queensland in particular is looking to follow us along with this on the journey, so this will hopefully be a cross-state, cross-agency type of approach. So why is it relevant for the people in this room, with the vast majority of you guys being electrical engineers? Well, for starters, you or your team members, if you work in a surface mine, are operating in this environment. Okay, so it has a direct outcome in terms of your safety. Those defence layers you see behind me here too are equally as applicable for underground mines as well. And many underground mines have actually adopted that framework that sits within the TRG. So it's applicable across both open cut and underground mines. The layers themselves, so a lot of engineers I think that their world just belongs in layers 8 and 9, which is the technology side. However, right through layers 1 through to 8, through to 9, we need to make sure our systems are operating as intended. We see a lot of incidents where systems do not operate as intended, either through faults or through limitations that haven't been discovered. So it's important that any system that is in our mine sites is operating as intended to prevent vehicle interactions. So if you look at the design phase, and I won't go through all this in detail given the amount of time that I have, but if you look at the design phase, you've got things like electrical specifications and systems on a mobile equipment. You've got design of traffic control systems and interlocking access gates and standard operating procedures for lockouts and isolation of mobile equipment. All of those things electrical engineers must be having input into to ensure they are operating as designed. Look at, always have the button. I've missed one somehow. Oh no, I haven't, just duck. If you look at layers 4 to 5, again, input into electrical specific training for operators and maintainers, and especially maintainers to ensure things operate as intended, and support the implementation of fatigue detection systems and those sorts of things. Again, to ensure they're operating as intended. And then if you look at layers 6 to 9, obviously this starts to get into some of the more meaty stuff for the electrical engineers. However, not to say they're more important than layers 1 to 5, but you've got installation, verification of machine health systems, you've got design, install and maintenance of lighting, cameras, audible alarms for mobile equipment, and then 8 you get into your proximity detection systems, and then 9 you get into your actual machine intervention systems. So 8 and 9, as we talked about in the video, they're important from a last minute, last millisecond type event. But we're encouraging all mines to see that that is not your silver bullet. If you're operating in an environment like that, where you're relying on 8 and 9, you're operating in a pretty poor environment. It's layers 1 to 7 that actually save lives. Layers 8 and 9 only kick in when all the other layers have failed. So some of the other key aspects, I guess, with this one, I'll just click through all these and get them up on the screen. So the TRG, the Ravoa TRG, I guess, taught the regulator a couple of things. One is that we need, as a regulator, to actually understand what the problem is before we go marching off with a solution. Okay, so the industry involvement that we had through that committee actually helped us understand the problem better and helped us understand how we can actually solve the problem. And what it really highlighted to me was we don't need 20 different ways to solve these problems. And this extends beyond vehicle interactions. Okay, I'm sure there are lots of examples in the electrical engineer safety area where there are different approaches to the exact same problem. We need, as an industry, to find common ground where we can actually start to build and collaborate and replace the duplication with collaboration and work on these things together so we can actually share and discuss under a common language and framework on some of these things that are still causing harm for our workers. So the TRG has taught us a good lesson in that respect. It's not just about the vehicle hazards. There's a broader opportunity here for the regulator to really become the enabler through partnerships, and I'll talk about what this means on our next slide, with the industry to start addressing some of these key issues that just won't go away, that we see happen year, month and week out and week in, that just keep reoccurring. There's an opportunity to fix that. So just to put things into context, because it's important to understand, I guess I just want to spend, the second thing I want to talk about is just what the regulator does, okay? Our key work, and where we're emerging in terms of our, work that we want to do in the future. So our key work as a regulator will always be legislative engagement or legislative compliance. It always has been, and it will continue to be. This core work establishes a foundation that absolutely saves lives and is often underestimated in terms of just how effective it is. This is basically the inspectors turning up at your site, assessing your systems, issuing notices, potentially issuing stronger enforcement measures like caution letters and that kind of thing, or even leading to potentially prosecutions after an incident. This is our core work. Over the years, it has absolutely saved lives, and that's why the legislation is written. Its primary goal is to align the industry with legislation, and to this day, we still go to plenty of sites where that is just not happening. If you want to put a percentage on this, it's around about 70 to 80% of the work that we do, and it's the most important piece. The second piece of work we do as a regulator has been on the influencing and enabling area, and that is basically forums like today. It's all the other seminars that you might go to that we run, any workshops that we run. It's the technical reference guides, the fact sheets, and other information like videos that we put out to the industry to help you not just achieve legislative compliance, but actually extend beyond that and create a continuous improvement type process within the industry. And if we do our job well as a regulator, we actually become the enabler, like today. We enable the industry, companies, worker representatives, industry representatives to come together, okay, under a collaborative platform. That's our job. Your job is to take the ball from there. If we do our job properly as a regulator, we'll replace duplication with collaboration. An emerging piece of work for us, so beyond what you've seen, I guess, so far, is strategic partnerships. So this was in effect what we did with the TRG, with the Vehicle Interaction TRG, where we went out and we developed the terms of reference, we engaged with industry, worker representatives, industry representatives to form a committee to understand the problem and to work out how we're going to solve it. That was a strategic partnership for the regulator. Very clear terms, ensuring that we as a regulator maintained our authority and our decision-making ability, okay, and we weren't compromised, but it came up with something valuable for the industry. It'll be other things like seeking long-term MOUs with certain entities, okay, to work on a broad range of issues. We'll also be seeking shorter-term arrangements, like the TRG, to work on specific challenges with the industry. And the goal of this work is to address the stubborn issues and trends that we see still persisting in our industry to this day that we haven't been able to address to date. So that's basically, if you want to break it down into the three key areas that the regulator's doing. You will see more work in that third box, especially kicking off in 2026. You'll start to see that announced. They'll be open, they'll be transparent, you'll be able to see the terms and conditions in terms of how we operate. But I'm quite excited about that because that's hopefully addressing some of the key issues that we're seeing in the industry that we just haven't been able to solve alone or individually as different companies. So the last thing I'll just focus on is our vision. So we developed our vision at the start of this year and that was done through collaboratively with the members of the mine safety team. So our vision is to become a truly intelligence-driven and outcomes-focused regulator. So I want to explain what that means for us, but also what it means for the industry. So from the intelligence-driven perspective, we use data, we use evidence, insights, and the correct interpretations of these things to inform decisions, and we have the right KPIs in place. So we do that now to a certain degree. However, there's opportunities for us as a regulator to really dive deeper into our data, to analyse it better, to categorise it better, and maybe to collect data that we don't have. And ultimately, what that data does is it helps focus our resources where they need to be, and it helps measure how effective we are. And that journey, and I'll be open with you, that journey for us will include AI. As everyone in this room would know, AI is no longer emerging. It's with us, it's in this room, it's on your phones, it's in everything we do these days. And we're certainly looking to get on board to use AI to help interpret and categorise our data better and to, I guess, get better outcomes from the data that we do collect. So for industry, what it means is that if you want to have an effective regulator in your state, be open and honest with us with what's happening at your site. When you have incidents, tell us exactly what happened. The better data we have as a regulator, okay, the more informed our decisions are and the safer our industry will be. So I'll repeat that. The better data we have as a regulator, the safer our industry will be. And I'll say it bluntly, if your first approach after you have an incident is to consult a lawyer to tell us, you know, to understand what you should be and shouldn't be telling the regulator, you've lost the plot. The community expects better, and especially after the events of a couple of weeks ago. In terms of being outcomes focused, well, this is really about not being too concerned about how many notices that we issue or how many assessments we conduct at your sites, but being more focused on what are the outcomes of that work that we're doing. Are we actually having a positive impact as a regulator on the work health and safety of the workers in our industry? That's essentially what it boils down to. You know, and if we're not achieving the outcomes that we want to, you know, we adapt and evolve our work so we do achieve the right outcomes. And as an industry, as I mentioned, what that means for you is that, yep, the notices and assessments are one thing, but we actually want to see meaningful change. And that goes back to some of that work I was talking about before. So that's our vision, and that's what we're working towards this year and more so into next year. And I'll just finish off now. I think I might be over time, hopefully, maybe not, but I'll see if I am. I'm sure Meg will tell me later on. So I just want to leave you with this. We run these forums for one reason, that is to save lives. That's the bottom line. We're here to talk about the principal hazards that can lead to fatalities and the critical controls that prevent them. But it just isn't about systems and standards. Everybody in this room has a role to play. As electrical engineers, you hold a statutory responsibility to manage electrical hazards in your workplace and a professional obligation to maintain the knowledge and competence to do so. That is why these forums exist, to support you in meeting both of those responsibilities by learning from one another and strengthening how we approach electrical safety. Yet despite our efforts recently, the data does show still that we have work to do. Electric shocks and poor outcomes, particularly for apprentices, are continuing to occur, and that must change. And we'll talk about that more today, or maybe tomorrow with Russell's talk. So through these forums, the regulator positions itself not as a critic, but as an enabler to create a space for industry to come together, to learn, to share, and to grow as a collective. And as I mentioned before, it's time for the industry to truly drop the barriers and mean what it says when we say safety has no borders. So over the next 2 days, make the most of the opportunity, be open, challenge yourself, share your experience and knowledge. That's how we improve, and that's how we save lives. Thank you.